Live. Hey.
Still in this broke chair. It's not even broken. It's just low.
It's about it. You want to switch chairs?
A little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah, we can switch.
No.
Sure?
It's fine. It's fine. I almost used that chair, but it's okay. It's okay.
You're a pro.
I'm a pro. All right.
You'll power through. That's what you do.
I have a. Well, we'll get to it.
Get to it?
Yeah.
All right. You ready to roll?
Yes.
Let's do it. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Sportsbook and Casino app. Elliot Short Parks, James Seltzer with you. And yet another depressing week in Philadelphia sports. Super fun to be a Philly sports fan. All we do is lose in big games. How you doing?
Well, what the interesting part about it is
buddy.
there's a lot of winning to get to those games.
You're right.
I think that's something
You're
people miss
You're right.
when people point like, oh, Philly, nothing but losers. It's like, well, Phillies had to win a lot of games to get to the World Series. Eagles had to win a lot of games to get there. The Union, the Sixers didn't win as many games, but they won games to get there. So, but no, I agree. It's just gut punch season.
Oh, it's just brutal. And you're right. Like if in a vacuum, if you said, all right, your teams can be really good, but you're not going to win the championship, or they could suck and you're not going to win the championship, I would obviously take the good, but that also means the pain is greater.
Yes.
You know, if your team just sucks, and you check out on them and you're like, all right, whatever. When you invest, when you care, and then you lose the way you lose, it hurts so much more.
But I also think it hurts
much more.
It's in a sick way, like the fun part of being a sports fan, because imagine just being your team, you know, being a 7 seed every year, they get knocked out in the first round. Like, you're not getting emotionally up for that. You're not feeling the high of those wins. You're not texting your friends nonstop about like the big game or blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it definitely hurt to watch the Sixers get eliminated, especially the way they did. The Phillies aren't starting well, but I would trade the lows for the highs, or I would trade the high.
You would take the lows to have the highs.
Yeah, I would take the lows to enjoy the highs of the postseason run, even though it didn't end well.
Yeah, I would too. It's just like, and I do agree generally.
Really
like,
getting right into this today.
Yeah, if we're going to talk right in, hell yeah. I do agree too that, like, look, the reason it's special to win it all is because we don't always win it all. We never win it all. It would just be nice to win a couple extra along the way. Just
so
a couple.
Close.
So close.
But so real quick, make sure you hit auto subscribe.
Yes,
make sure you leave a 5-star review.
Please.
Yes.
It helps people find the pod. It helps
blah,
us.
blah, blah.
All the good stuff.
You already know by now.
If you care about us, you know, all we ask. So little of your time. One click. All you can do is move your thumb like that, and that's it. That's all we're at.
I don't really leave myself a lot of reviews for pods, but I feel like this pod, we have a better relationship with the listeners than most. So I think that you should feel a bit of an obligation.
Yeah, like indebted in a way. Yeah.
All right, so back to what I was saying. I'm curious for
you're not really indebted to us. Don't worry.
Curious what you think about this. I find myself on that same topic we were talking about. I don't know if it's because I'm an old man now. I'm 35.
Oh, yeah.
But
aged.
In a weird way, the losses, they hurt. But I've found myself enjoying the ride a lot more and being able to put the losses in perspective. And I think that's something that's different, at least I can speak from my point of view, than maybe the greater fan base. Like when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl, I was able to sit here and say, and granted, my fandom for the Eagles is just different, right? But I was very much like, they lost to a great team. They had a great year. It's probably still the best team in franchise history, right? I was able to view it that way.
Yes, and I was very clearly not.
Right. When the Phillies lost the World Series, also hurt, but I was able to say, hey, man, what a ride. I'll remember this run forever, watching you and Jack do your thing. And with the Sixers, not as deep of a run, but I do honestly believe because they lost to the Celtics, I don't view the loss as bad as because when they lost to the Heat, like when Embiid was hurt, or when they lost to the Hawks because they blew it. And I don't know. Do I need to start value winning more?
I think so. I think
there's truth. But I think there's truth to what I'm saying too.
There would be, and I get your point, and I certainly agree with the Phillies. Like, I've come around on the Phillies where I look at the positives that season more than losing the World Series. The Eagles, I'm not there yet, but I get it. I appreciate the greatness of the season, but it's how we lost at the end that's just so painful that I can't get there yet. But with the Sixers, it's because of the years and years of failure over and over again in this exact round. And then it's because of how it played out. Like, yes, the Celtics are a good team and all that, but like, you were up 3-2 with a chance to win in game 6, and then you didn't show up in game 7.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can't get there with that because I'm like, you didn't show up. You didn't show up for game 7.
Well, I tweeted this out, but I think it's the perfect. I mean, it was a nightmare. Game 7, I could handle a loss. I couldn't handle what happened.
Well, I loved your comp. I thought as an Eagles
The
comp,
Tampa Bay,
it's such a perfect guy. And obviously, this was a bigger game, a more important game, more riding on the group of
because
guys,
of the baggage,
the legacies and the baggage and all that. But it's such a perfect example of like the only thing that couldn't happen happened.
Yeah, like when the Eagles, for those that haven't heard it, when the Eagles went into Tampa Bay in Sirianni and Jalen's rookie year together, all year leading up to that game, it was they haven't played anybody. They're only in the playoffs because they're playing terrible quarters, blah, 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 blah. And leading into that, it wasn't you have to beat Tampa. It was, okay, let's see him against a quality opponent.
Hey, you went from 3-2 and 5, 3-6. You made the playoffs.
Yes.
Like, this could be a stepping stone for the future.
Let's see how you stack up against
a
good team.
And at least show some effort and play hard.
And they got absolutely demolished.
Waxed.
Now, I think the play hard thing, I do think they played hard. They were just completely outclassed.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
And so the one thing you couldn't have happened against that in that game was you can't.
And Jalen looked awful too. That was the
and Jalen looked awful.
That was the other thing too.
And with the Sixers, it was the same thing. I was willing to accept a loss to the Celtics. It was how they lost that I think has created this outrage that really, let's be honest. I mean, you're on air every single day. I'm on air most days and I listen every day. I can't remember the last time a Sixers outrage was this prolonged. They've lost in the second round before. I can't remember where they get eliminated on Sunday and it's Thursday and we're still talking.
Without a doubt.
Normally it's like 2-3 days.
No, you're right. And it's been notable to me.
Yeah.
I've noticed it on the air. And again, it goes back to the baggage. It goes back to, it's like time and time and time again. And then when you have this golden opportunity against the team that keeps beating you and the freaking bitter rival and the whole thing. And again, I do think like, if they look, I don't think we would have been like, we still would have been upset because the second round exit is a second round exit year after year.
Right. But if they lose 110 to 105,
if they played hard and Embiid had a great game and like they just lost game 7, it's like, all right, like I'm not happy. I'm still annoyed with the season and the outcome, but at least I'm not going in the offseason being like, well, they're never win. Like right now, I feel like they will never win a title with this group. Like that's where I'm at. Yeah. It's over. It's over.
So I'm not.
And I know logically that you're not there, and I'll let you go there in a second.
Yeah.
But I know logically, look, the NBA the last 3 years has been the most wide open in our lifetimes. Every year in our lives, like, all right, the Bulls are going to win. All right, the Warriors are going to win. All right, Spurs are going to win. Or it's going to be the Spurs or the Heat. Like one of those two teams will win. It's so rare that we have a wide open NBA.
Wide open, yeah.
And it is the last couple of years we've seen that. Each of the champions the last few years, it's been, the Warriors have won a bunch, but that was an unexpected. They weren't the best team all year, like all that stuff. So I do think that there is hope in that, but it's like, man, like I can't watch that happen in game 7, the best chance they've had to get out of that round and just completely, earmuffs 1, 2, 3, shit the bed and be like, all right, well, let's just, it's all going to be good.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Well, it's funny. Joe Giglio asked me on air, he said, how much longer would you give this group of Sixers? And my answer was until there's a better plan.
Yeah.
But
I understand the reality of their situation.
Yeah. But to tie this into the Eagles, what I think's interesting about my whole, how I'm viewing losing and, all that is the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. But what I really respect about the Eagles and why I think they are obviously the best franchise in the city
by miles
is it's not, I mean, they've won one Super Bowl and just take Lurie's tenure, 25 years, whatever it is. I mean, they've been to a bunch of they went to 3 straight conference championship games, lost all of them. Not that different than what the Sixers are going through. Obviously another round, but not that different. But what I respect about the Eagles so much is the lows are very quick and they don't come often. And I think the longer I am close to sport, like the longer I'm covering sports and the more I like follow the everyday intricacies of it, what I really respect about the Eagles and how they're operating at a high level is I think the chances the Eagles win 7 games next year are like 5%. Mm-hmm. Like we can joke about it, like, everything, but ultimately they're going to be a double-digit win team. They're going to be in the playoffs. They'll probably win the division and they'll probably be the 1 seed. Will they win the Super Bowl? I don't know. But I think what's impressive about the Eagles that the other teams don't have, besides, ironically, the Sixers in a way, is when it comes to the playoffs and it comes to these final games, I love narratives and I love roller coasters and I love legacies and I love bucket boys and winning and all those things. But the more really close postseason games I watch, it just makes you realize how much winning it all is somewhat fluky. Like not fluky is not the right word, but just if in game 6, DeAnthony Melton makes one more three.
Look, we could talk about the
yeah.
Eagles. I mean,
The Eagles,
if the ball doesn't go off Keanu Neal's leg, if Julio Jones catches the ball in the end zone, I mean, that's 100%. The year they actually won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you know? Or you can say
or
the
this year,
last year,
if they don't call the flag.
They don't call the flag. If the field is different, there's all
right.
exactly.
If Jalen did all these things. So
all you can do is put yourself in position to have chances.
Yes, and I think that's what is most respectable about the Eagles compared to some of the other franchises is, so let's look at the Sixers and the Phillies in comparison. The Sixers every year, let's just talk about current 10 years, right? They are almost always a top 4 seed. They almost always have home court advantage in the series they're playing. Obviously not this last one. They were the 1 seed one year. They have the MVP. They consistently win 50 plus games. Like this, the Sixers are one of the best teams in the NBA. But come playoff time,
the regular season,
they lose.
And
right?
You're judged by playoffs.
I agree with that.
You
are judged by playoff success. But what's interesting compared to the Phillies, and it's why I think it's a perfect comparison, is the Phillies made the playoffs once, but they went all the way to the World Series. So it's kind of which would you rather be? And I think that's the interesting thing about the Sixers and what highlights how good the Eagles are. The Eagles have only won 1 Super Bowl, but even on the years that we remember as terrible years, they won a playoff game one of those years, and they were in the playoffs the other years. When you're in the playoffs, you have a roll of the dice. And I think what really sports is about is a roll of the dice. I'm not a ref guy, but the Super Bowl, the flag, if that doesn't get called, maybe they win. The flag is completely out of control. I know he held, but it's out of their control. Game 6 against the Celtics, the Sixers come out, they almost win it. They're like this close. And then it comes out the next day that they got like 14 calls that went against them compared to the Celtics 3. And players played poorly, and Embiid didn't play well, Harden didn't play well. But if half those calls go in the Sixers' favor, then they're winners. So when I look at what the Eagles do compared to the Phillies and the Sixers, the Eagles are always in it. They're always in it. They might not do it every year, and they certainly have not done it every year, but they're always in it. And I think that's what I'm starting to respect a little bit more. I still believe in your flags fly forever. Championships matter. Had the Eagles won the Super Bowl, clearly we would view it differently. But I just respect the fact that every year the Eagles have a legit chance. And I think maybe that's where I differ with people on the Sixers a little more. I respect the fact that the Sixers every year are one of the final 8 teams, and then you just see what happens. Whereas the Phillies, who went all the way to the World Series, almost never have a chance because they don't make the postseason.
Well, I mean, less percentage of teams make the playoffs in baseball. Like there are years over that run where the Phillies would have made the playoffs if there had been,
NBA title is probably the hardest to win, though. Would you say that?
I don't know. Honestly, I think the Super Bowl might be the hardest to win.
Well, that's one and done, but you only have to win.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to win 16 games in the NBA.
I mean, baseball playoffs are chaos once you get there. So that's hard to do too.
And who even knows about hockey?
You be the best team in baseball, and it means nothing for the playoffs practically. So here's what I think in talking about that. And we're talking about like kind of what can these two teams take from the Eagles? Because to your point, without a doubt, and I would quibble with I would much rather be the Phillies right now than the Sixers, personally, the situation they're in, and something I'm going to get to in a minute. But I do think that these teams should look to the. I mean, the Eagles are so far and away the number 1 franchise in the city, and it's deserved, and it's from the top. That's what I believe. I believe it comes from Jeffrey Lurie on down, and the way. And you talk about it all the time. How many times over the last few years, particularly when they were going bad in 2020, and I'm sitting here ranting and raving about the Jaguars, and they're going to be the Lions, the Browns, and I'm like, and you were like, bro, like they are a great franchise. They do things the right way. The infrastructure is great. Like they go about their business the right way. And yeah, it's a down year and all these factors played into it, but they do things the right way and they will bounce back because of it. And it was proven to be absolutely true. And I think that's the thing with the Eagles is the way that they are run as a franchise. The drafting and developing thing, like this kind of stuff, which is the Phillies thing, which is what they're starting to do now and is so important for the future. And I think when you look at this Sixers thing, I think the biggest issue they've had, like, because we both thought the process was smart. We were believers in the idea of the process.
And I think it worked.
And I think it worked to a point. The issue is a couple issues. Obviously, they drafted poorly in spots.
Very poorly.
But they didn't develop guys. They worried about like, let's get a bunch of talent and bring them in. Like, what do you do with that talent once you get it? How do you take that talent and take it and create a culture? There's no culture with the Sixers. Like it is a losing culture. It is everyone gets to do whatever the hell they want culture. It's a James Harden. Sure. Go to Vegas and whatever. I know he played well in that game, but then as soon as Doc says, I didn't like that, he's like, get out of here. Like no one has gotten rid of more coaches in the history of sports than James Harden. Like, so it's like this whole like culture attitude down there is not a winning formula. It's not a winning formula. Whereas the culture that's in that building, from Hurts and Sirianni, and obviously all the way up, like that's a winning culture.
Well,
that's how you get guys in and you make them better. That's why you take a Jalen Carter and believe that he's going to succeed in your building, because you have a place to bring players to make them better. And the Phillies have not done that for forever, and they're starting to focus on that. And the Sixers have not done that either. And that's my biggest issue with this whole situation.
So what's interesting about what you said is, and I agree with Jalen, and I've been down in the facility a few days over the past few weeks. I mean, every player that talks about how it's important Jalen's there. And, rookies that come in, they already met Jalen. Jalen already texted him. So all those things are very important. That is a small window of the Eagles of, I think, what makes them successful. What I think separates the Eagles, and I'm happy you brought up ownership because I think it's so true. It is Lurie, but I also think what it is what we kind of criticize him for briefly. Whenever I go to the facility, I would say 8 out of 10 times, Lurie's car is parked in his spot. He is there. He watches practices.
Back in that was still a decade ago. He was there every day.
He cares. Like, we can criticize the fact that he's in the draft room and why is he offering input? But I'll trade that for having an owner that at his core wants this team to win. I think there are a few things in his life he cares more about outside of, health and family.
Yeah.
Than the Eagles win.
I totally agree.
He owns tons of businesses. I guarantee you he cares the most about the Eagles winning. And so with the Sixers.
And by the way, I know that it hasn't always borne results, but I feel that way about John Middleton. Like, I do believe that John
Middleton. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Really
I do.
cares about winning. Like, he hasn't always gone about it the right way, but like that dude desperately wants to win.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He's kind of new on the scene, though.
Well, so he was there. He was a minority.
That's what I mean. He's now the face of it for only the first
7-8 years, whatever it's been.
So I think I get the same vibe from him. I don't get the same, and sometimes sports can be so result oriented. I do think he really cares. He spends money. He's certainly, when he comes on the radio, I think he says always the right things. Mm-hmm. He came and talked to fans in the stands with you guys. I believe,
which I love.
I 100% agree with that.
Stuff.
Yeah. So I definitely think he really cares. Where I think the Sixers, we differ slightly on how Josh Harris.
Yeah, I think Josh Harris is a horrendous.
I know you don't like him as an owner.
I think he's a.
I think he gives them a lot of resources. What
he does,
need, which I think is a big part.
I will not rip him in that he spends money. There's no question about that.
But I don't believe Josh Harris really at his core cares if
and to your point,
would he want it? Yes, but
your point before, the Sixers are probably like 400th on his list of 100th. Whatever. That guy is a lot of coming, including a new football team.
Right. Whereas I think when the Eagles lose, Jeffrey
is devastated.
Really thinks about it for a long time.
100%.
I don't think Josh Harris is like that. I don't think that makes him a bad owner. But I think that's one of the difference with the Eagles is the Eagles are completely aligned in their vision. And I also think the other thing the Eagles don't do that other teams do is I do think the Eagles don't often make reactionary decisions. So Doc is not a new coach here. Doc has his failures. I would have fired Doc. But I didn't like when Daryl Morey said at this press conference, and I'm paraphrasing, reading into, but his answer was essentially, if Doc wins one more game, he's probably still here.
That was a horrible answer.
And I think that's a poor process.
Of course,
it's a poor way to go about it. Now, I do think had they beaten Boston, they would have beaten the Heat, and that's whatever. But the Eagles, like when Howie was really struggling twice, in 2013 with Chip, and then also in 2020, they stuck by him. And I think you're seeing the benefits of that. I don't think keeping Doc around was the right call. But what the Eagles have done is they've allowed Howie to grow. And now because he's made so many mistakes, but they've stuck with him, there's not a situation in the league that Howie hasn't been through and can't look at how he did it and remember the mistakes he made or remember what helped him. So I think that helps. But I think the Eagles, more than any other franchise, have such a backbone of the owner and the GM are rock solid, good at their jobs. Dom Smolensky from the business side of it, very good.
He's great too.
Right. But I think that's what the issue with the Sixers is. The Sixers have, to a certain extent, absentee is probably not fully fair, but they don't have an owner that I think cares as much as Jeffrey.
He's got a lot more going on.
They've had a lot more turnover.
It is, right? Like Jeffrey Lurie's, like he has other businesses, but his biggest thing, the most important thing that Jeffrey Lurie owns is the Philadelphia Eagles. Like the Sixers are not the most important thing that Josh Harris owns.
I agree with that. I mean, honestly, probably Washington is right now.
If we're being honest, it's some of these businesses, whatever. But regardless, the point is, yes, even sports-wise, Washington's more important.
Right.
Paid a lot more money for him.
I think another thing the Eagles have done that I think the Sixers and Phillies could really learn from is when they hire head coaches, and it's definitely part of the Sixers right now, but frankly, I think it really applies to the Phillies. Rob Thompson did a great job last year. Rob Thompson was in the MLB for 25 years before he got a job at manager.
Longer, yeah.
You can make an argument he's just He got a hot streak last year, but he's maybe not a great
We
manager.
have no idea yet.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying.
But he was also an interim manager who took him to the World Series. Like,
Yeah.
you're obviously going to bring that guy back.
You definitely bring him back. I mean, sign him to the long extension. We can debate how long
his 2 years. Or
we can debate how long his lease should be. But either way, when the Eagles have hired coaches, what I think's been really smart about what they've done is they have gone with guys that they just believe in. You very rarely see them hire the big name. Chip was the biggest name I think Larry has ever hired. Didn't work out. Obviously, he was gone in 3 years. They did win a lot of games under Chip, but it didn't work out.
Every other one has been unexpected.
Right, Doug, out of nowhere.
Nick, freaking Andy, all of it. Even Ray Rhodes was not like, it was a little out of nowhere, but like the other three are big time out of nowhere.
And so I think the other two teams, and I'm not involved in their thought process, and there is a certain extent of like, just sign Trey Turner, right? But I think the other two teams do a little more of, like when they fire Doc and it's tweeted out that they're looking at Monty Williams, like Budenholzer, like all the guys you expected. There's never anything interesting. It's not like, oh, they're interviewing the head coach of whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, wow, that's surprising. Whereas I think the Eagles, when they look at head coaches, they do cast a wider net. They don't just follow what I think people believe they should do. And I think part of that is because they're well connected within the league. I don't think Josh Harris talks to a lot of people in the NBA. And Middleton probably does. I would give him credit on that. But I think for the Sixers and the Phillies, they could learn from hiring from the Eagles, because I think the Sixers right now, they don't need a Monty Williams. They need someone that is like motivated. When I watched how Nick and Doug came into that building, and they were so motivated by the disrespect that it fueled them. I think Nick is still fueled by the fact that his press conference,
I agree with you.
It kills him inside, and it kills him inside that people make fun of him and all those things. And I mean that as a compliment. Like it
drives him.
His career is on the line. I think when you saw at the end of Andy's tenure, and he's been obviously really good in Kansas City, but at the end of Andy's tenure, he was kind of
checked out.
He was made, right? His career is what it is. Doc Rivers wants to win with the Sixers, I think. But it's not killing Doc if he loses game 7.
You can go play golf.
Right. Whereas I think Sirianni, it drives him. But that's because he hasn't won one. He's not already a Hall of Fame coach. Doc's already a Hall of Fame coach. Now, Monty Williams is not that. Mike Budenholzer is not that. But they've had success. So I think for the Phillies, too, with Rob Thompson, I know he's older, so he's like an old rookie, which is a little different. But I liked when Gabe was here, and Gabe was like bringing fresh ideas and really wanted to prove himself.
Yeah, I think Thompson does a lot of that too.
Do you? Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You would know more.
I don't always agree with them, but I do think he tries stuff. But look, I think you're making really interesting points, and I generally agree. I think the issue with the Sixers in particular is I don't know that there's a coach that they can bring in that's going to change this, especially because of the culture that's been set. Like, what coach is going to be able to come in here? And I would hire Nick Nurse if it was me. I would hire
Sam Cassell.
I know. I saw your endorsement, and I get that. Like, Cassell would be high on my list. He would be, my issue with Cassell is he's been here for this.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue with him.
And that concerns me, just being here for that. Like, but I need someone who can come in and say, Joel Embiid, get down the block. Like, get down there, play to your side. I need someone who's gonna be like, Joe, work out, be in shape, be ready. I know he's a big man. He's not meant to do to his body what he does. But like, I need someone who's gonna be able to come in and get James Harden to try when he's not trying, and get people to care when they're not caring. And I just don't know if with the culture that's been set there, that like, can anyone come in and tell Joel Embiid what to do, or James Harden? Like, especially James Harden now, it feels like he runs the Sixers all of a sudden.
Right.
Like,
well,
who knows? We'll see how this all plays out. But if he gets a 4-year deal, it's like, James Harden's team. Like, especially if they hire D'Antoni, then it's like, okay, so Harden's really in charge here.
Yeah.
So I just don't know who can come in here and have like the ability to change what's been set in stone for so long with these players.
And just, I think what's interesting about that is in the NBA, I think your stars are just the culture setters, and Jalen's a culture setter.
Want to win.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what I was going to say. I think there is a strong argument that Joel Embiid is more talented at basketball than Jalen is at football, and that's
I think there definitely
right.
Is.
Jalen's awesome and Embiid's awesome, but I think
he's also like 6.
Yeah, for sure.
Career and all that, yeah.
I mean, again, I'm the one that on Radio Row spent all week saying, so you don't have to talk to me about Jalen's potential.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think with the Joel thing, and it was a bit of a Carson thing too. I don't think there's a head coach in the NBA or a human on this earth that can come coach the Sixers that will change how Joel acts in big spots. I think it's just who he is. I think you're just going to have to hope the next time they play Game 7 Joel's into it that day. Like, it's painful and it's worrisome.
I know.
I'm just like, but some people
But
are
then
like
what about
that.
Harden too?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
That's what's worrisome about them together. Now, the tough thing is they're also extremely talented and very good. So
Sure.
there's both sides of it. But that's what the Eagles benefit with Jalen, and why Carson as the number 2 pick. You could argue, I think Jalen's arm's underrated. We could argue just quickly, maybe Carson has a better arm. But Carson just was not Jalen. His personality, all those things. And that's what makes Jalen worth the money when they sign him. I mean, me, you, and, like Jack and people in the office often debate, like, how much better can Jalen be? Like, and we are on the camp of he will be better. But I think why you feel comfortable with that is not only could he be better, but I do think it matters from a perspective of he's in the building all the time. Every game he plays, he's going to be very steady. That's what's so frustrating about Joel is unbelievably talented, but Joel is much more, for those not watching, I'm going like this, right?
Yeah,
like
up and
up, down. Whereas Hurts, better, worse, whatever,
It's
consistent. And that's what's frustrating. I mean, even to bring up Ben Simmons for a second, Ben Simmons was an incredibly flawed player. At least you knew every night Ben Simmons was going to give you 12, 10, and 9. And you knew his flaw. What sucks about Harden and Joel is how great they can be, so you build around them. And then some nights they're just like, well, I don't have it tonight. And then that's it. Like, at least with Ben, you knew the flaw. The flaw was unable to get over. And I think that's what makes Jalen so special is there will be games where Jalen doesn't play well. But we've never watched Jalen, I don't think, where we are up in the press box or watching from TV or whatever, and you go, man, he's just mentally out.
He's not here today. Yeah,
he's just not. He's just not in it. And even the Super Bowl when he had that fumble, I think it was a critical play. Whatever,
he bounced right
but
back.
he did play well the rest of the game, and I don't know if Joel does.
So
that. I don't know if
I think
James
it's
does
such
that.
a great point, and I think to your point from before, I think it's probably the most important thing you could ask for out of your best player. Like, obviously,
Right.
talent and all that, but like, you need someone who is driven and someone who cares and someone who, because you're right, like, a coach doesn't have the same gravitas as if Joel Embiid is the one going up to players and be like,
why they had to sign PJ Tucker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, yay, PJ in the moment. But the fact that PJ Tucker in game 5, the most important game of the season, had to yell at your star player, hey, get your head out of your ass and bring it, like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Whereas Jalen Hurts is PJ Tucker from that perspective. And he's your best player, and he can set that freaking tone.
Yeah. And the other thing I think the Eagles benefit from is, I think in the NBA, it's really hard for the head coach to be the culture setter. You could argue, Greg Popovich, Eric Spoelstra, Nick Nurse to an extent, but they weren't that good once they lost Kawhi. But in the NFL, I definitely think head coaches can be culture setters. What the Eagles benefit from is they have a great culture setter in Jeffrey Lurie, so you check that. Sixers don't have that. The Eagles have a great culture setter in Nick. You check that. Sixers don't even have a head coach. So, but I think already with Nick, Lurie, and Howie, the Eagles' culture will always be very good. Where it goes on mega drive, like steroids, is then they have arguably the best one already at quarterback. I think you can win without your quarterback being Jalen, but when you have him being that as well, it really highlights how Joel has to do it all by himself. He's the only culture setter for the Sixers. Baseball, you could speak to about better, but I think it's tougher to be a huge culture setter guy. You play so many games,
So
like
many
you're
different
one of the
players
9 in line, all those things.
Yes.
But Bryce seems like he's that guy.
He
Rob
does.
Thompson to me doesn't, but who knows? Anyway, I just think the Eagles really benefit from having at each key spot an extreme culture setter. And I think that's what the Sixers could learn from.
I think it's such a great point, especially, Joel isn't, and then James isn't. And then if you've got those are your guys. Those are your guys.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
The shame is they're just so good.
Look, they're very, Embiid especially. Harden, is still good for, what he is, but could be better if he took care of himself. But yeah, Embiid is as talented a player as there is in the league. Like, that's why it's so upsetting.
Think about this.
The second round.
Joel had the best season of his career. He won the MVP. I put a Twitter poll up yesterday and
I
asked.
told you this, by the way.
I know. I did it.
I told you. I know. I'm just saying. I knew where these results would go.
Obviously. And it was, did your opinion of Joel essentially get better or worse this year? And I haven't checked this morning.
It was
but
like
it was
87,
like
80.
90% worse off of 3 games.
Yeah.
He played probably 90 games not that many. He played probably 80 games this
68
year.
during the regular season. So
And then a
like
bunch in the
80-ish.
playoffs. So in those 3 games dictated all of it.
Yeah.
So it's probably extremely frustrating.
I'm sure it is, but again, it also should be a lesson to him. Like, this is how you are judged. Like, ultimately, as much as the regular season's nice and MVPs are nice and stuff, like, greatness is judged on winning it when it matters most. Like, that's just how it is. I want to continue this conversation, but first,
Well, speaking of
let's
winning,
give a chance. Exactly.
Speaking
Look,
of winning.
you did better than I had a segue that was better. Speaking of winning, go.
So last night, and this is actually I have to talk to you about this off the air in a roundabout
good.
way.
I like this.
Yeah, so we're having
What a tease that
we're having an
is for my
HVAC
life
problem with
later.
our.
Oh goodness.
So we have two HVACs. We have a basement HVAC and a second floor HVAC. And our second floor HVAC right now is not putting out cold water. Good news is I think it's a small problem. Whatever. So what did we do last night? Got up to the third floor. I thought, man, it's hot upstairs. I put my window up.
Look at you.
I put my window up. You don't appreciate a good window until you need one. And I needed a good window last night. How do you get good windows? You already know. I didn't have to say it. It's like if I said to you, what are you going to use to bet on? You would answer. If I say you need a good window, you need Window Nation. They're part of the family. They listen to the pod. Jalen Hurts is involved with Window Nation.
Shout out to Jalen Hurts.
Is involved
with Window Nation.
We just talked all about culture.
Yeah.
Jalen obviously does not just make decisions willy-nilly. He
man.
can work with anybody.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to be in Philly. It gets pretty cool, hot, cold. I'm going to need quality windows.
That's right.
He needs them from Window Nation. And the way you can get really good windows and the way you can enjoy these windows with us is you call 866-90-NATION. And when you do, they will probably tell you some of these things, which is you get good windows, you save 30% on your energy bills. You get good windows, you increase the value of your home by up to $12,000. And I love that they wrote here, jealous neighbors. I just love the pettiness of writing that. It's so true. Like, you want to make your neighbors jealous? Why don't you increase your value by $12,000? No big deal to you. So anyway, I needed good windows. I had good windows, and it's something you don't really respect until you need them. So call 866-90-NATION. You can go online to windownation.com. And when you do, make sure Go Bird. Tell them Go Bird sent you.
Damn straight. Tom Go Bird sent you. And when you save all that money with Window Nation, bang! Open up the Bet Park Sportsbook app and start making more money with it by winning some bets. Yes, I did win on the Heat money line last night because Elliot kept telling me, there's no way that there's no. I did because you forced me to bet it. There is no way. Oh, the Heat, they're not good. I was like, they're definitely winning tonight. Yeah. And bang, thank you. Plus 310 or whatever it was. Bang. Beautiful times.
Sixers beat Celtics game 1.
And it couldn't have been easier to do than on the Bet Park Sportsbook app. It's so much fun. And obviously basketball playoffs are so much fun to bet on. Plus baseball's back, golf, hockey playoffs going on. It is a great time of year. And in your hand, when you're holding the Bet Park Sportsbook app, you have all you need to get some skin in the game. And it is so much more fun when you're actually having some action on these games we're already watching. It's playoffs. We're watching it. Have a little action on it. It's so much more. You're way more invested in the action. It is just way more fun. And it's the only sportsbook app that we at Go Birds recommend. Obviously, live in-game betting, bet on the action as it happens. Wild swings and lines, real opportunities to make money. Same game parlays, so much fun. Nothing better than hitting 3 of the 4 and then missing that last one by half point and being like, well,
nothing better.
At least I had fun tonight.
You're buying hope.
You're buying hope. I like that.
Actually, remind me of a point about that.
Yeah, okay, good. I like that. Again, you can bet more on the score player performances, home runs, strikeouts, points, rebounds, all the good stuff. And here's a great deal. All new users, if you bet $10, you get $125 in sportsbook bonus. If your first bet wins, betparks.com has all the terms and conditions. New users and winning bets only. Sports bonus must be wagered once. See website for details. You must be 21 and present in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Ohio. Gambling problem. 1-800-GAMBLER.
So yesterday we spoke to Jason Kelsey down at the NovaCare.
Oh, no big deal to you.
Yeah, no big deal to me. And it was actually yesterday. I don't rarely do this, but I was looking at Jason because he was talking about how he might retire, how he's like contemplating retiring, and thinking that is one of the best all-time Eagles up there.
Oh yeah.
You know, in like 20 years when I'm like,
that's you're looking at a Hall of
Famer,
right?
Like right now when people talk about Chuck Bednarik, I'm like, get out of here. Like, I could literally care less about anything Chuck Bednarik. Yeah, like in 30 years when I'm talking, they'll be like, get out of here with the center from blah blah. I'm like, no, trust me, you had to be there. You had to be there.
It's a great point.
That.
In our lifetime, honestly, there's never been an offensive lineman who's like just popped like this.
And what am I going to say to people? No, you should have seen how fast he was in space. I'm not going to like point to his stats. At least with other old athletes, I could say, you know, he had like X amount of touchdowns, or whatever. But anyway, Jason made an interesting point. He was talking about, I forget what the question was, but he was saying the one thing, part of his job and part of the job as an NFL player is you give people hope. Right? That was an interesting way of phrasing it, where the games are a small portion of the full calendar year. What the Eagles give Philly fans is hope. This goes back to what we were just talking about. Eagles fans have been able to spend all offseason this year and all up until week 1 and all of it, like pride and hope and feeling like, yes, we have a chance to win it all. Sixers don't give their fans
Such a
that.
great point.
You know, the
man.
Phillies this year did to an
but
extent.
haven't in the past, no doubt.
You know, Keith Jones going to give it to the Flyers.
I mean,
but
starting to at
for
least
sure.
more than we have before. Well, I mean, look, they did I can't remember. I think it might have been John Johnson. One of the shows on WIP did a poll: which front office do you have more faith in?
I know, I saw the Flyers.
And the Flyers
yeah.
beat the Sixers, and it's like,
Well,
you
the
know,
Sixers aren't winning any polls right now.
agree, but
Yeah.
like, how crazy is that team? Like, the Flyers have been a laughing stock, like
Well,
literal laughing stock.
When Keith Jones was talking on your show, and I actually listened to the whole hour.
He was,
it was very
phenomenal.
interesting.
He was so good.
But he did say, to go back to our prior conversation, he said the Eagles are really good. You can mostly just look at them and say, do what they do.
We
and
did
I
say
appreciate
that.
that's what I mean.
did too.
And I appreciated the honesty with that.
And
But
it's
anyway,
the whole conversation we're having here. Like, that's
Yeah.
what we're saying. Like, look at that, mimic that,
It's why
emulate that.
I honestly believe I could be the GM of a football team because I've watched the Eagles up close. I just firmly believe it. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting point from Jason about how part of his job, like maybe the biggest part of his job, is giving fans hope throughout the year.
Well, and it's a great point because that is what fandom is, right? Like, that's the whole point. I always say this, I always say it, but like, it is, and maybe not for us as much now because it's our jobs. And stuff,
Right.
but in general, like, being a sports fan is a choice, right? Yes, your parents hand it down to you and the teams and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But like,
you choose how
but
much you watch.
exactly, it's our time. We spend like, I don't have that much time. I wake up so early. You know how early I go to
I'm
bed.
well aware.
Like, it is like a choice. It is a choice to stay up and watch a game or to commit my energy or to buy a shirt or to go to a game and spend all this money. Like that is our choice, and we are expending of our own life assets, both time and money, to do that. And it is incumbent upon these teams to give us a reason to do that.
Well,
And right now, that's the concern with the Sixers,
Yeah.
is that because of the year after year after year of the same thing, the same old story, the same old ending, like that it is an offseason where it's like, I don't feel hope. Like, I'm not excited about the Sixers.
Right.
I'm down.
you're not going to think about them all off season. You're not going to
exactly.
be excited for trades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anything they do, you're just going to go, well, get out the second. Yeah.
Seriously. And that's a real problem where you're at as a franchise.
Speaking
fans and
of
hope.
picking and choosing, so after the Sixers lost Game 6, which was in Philly, I was at the game. I come home. Kristen's already asleep because it's like, I don't know, 11:30 or 12 or whatever. I get home and she's like, "Did they win?" And I'm thinking, wow, what a different life. I've been thinking about this game all week. I watched it. It was an emotional roller coaster. I'm like the most devastated I've been in a long time about a game. And she's like, "Did they win?"
I know.
Like, wow, how smart were you?
Yeah.
Not to just, but that's what we choose.
That's what
And
we
it's worth
choose.
it.
And it is worth it. And again, maybe a few more championships would be nice.
Yeah.
But that is really the key of what we're talking about here, is that the Sixers are in a spot where they are not providing hope for their fans. Like, that is really the crux of it.
Yep.
And that's a real problem.
The Eagles deal in hope.
The Eagles are the best at it, man.
Yeah,
Like,
they
and
are.
again, to your point, like
And
is-
Jason said that yesterday. He said what he really likes about Eagles fans is every year by week 1, they are convinced they are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, buddy.
And the Eagles have earned that.
They have,
Yeah.
and this year they're going to win the Super Bowl.
This
So
year they're gonna
you
win
know,
it,
so
so.
that it's a righteous belief heading into the season.
Did you see the Warren Sharp thing that
The rest edge.
Yeah.
thing.
just
Well,
keeps
if you want to talk about disrespect with his rest edge thing, if we're going to go with just that. So for those who don't know, Warren Sharp he's been talking about this for a couple of years now, where he
Right.
says the most important way to judge schedules is all about how much rest these teams get,
Mhm.
like how much they're on the road, how many days off, how many days between games, all that type of stuff. And the Eagles were, I believe, a -6 in
Yeah.
rest advantage.
I think
which
they
was-
had the 6th fewest. They're the 6th worst in terms of they get fewer rests than their
the
opponent.
Chiefs -13. They were the
Oh,
second
really?
worst out
It's
of all
disrespectful.
that but really, if
Yeah.
you want to do like the Chiefs. So like I thought that was pretty astounding when I saw. I was like, wow, like the Chiefs are twice as bad as the Eagles from the rest of
Well, on the flip side of that is the Jets were number 1 in the league.
Yeah.
And the league has every incentive to make the Jets
Of
good.
course.
Here's a
Of
good question.
course.
Do you think the NFL wants the Chiefs and the Eagles go back to the Super Bowl?
No.
I don't think so either.
But I really do believe. I think, look, any league wants the best teams, the best product, or whatever. I think the NFL of all the leagues, and I think they know this, it is just the least important. Like, everyone's going to watch Super Bowl.
Yes.
It just
And
doesn't
they
matter who
sell
it is.
parity.
And they sell
to get
parity,
back to
and they
hope.
also are good enough at creating storylines out of things, at finding ways to make stuff compelling.
Yeah.
Like, yes, ideally they're like, I want the 2 most marquee franchises or players or whatever. But I think ultimately, like, unlike where it's the NBA, where we literally talk about the extender and like, got to
Yeah.
get Celtics, Lakers, all that stuff, which is like, crazy that is something that is just a normal part of conversation. When we're talking about NBA playoff games, we talk, well, I wonder if the refs are going to.
And it's a problem.
Like that's a real problem
Yeah.
as the league. That is a topic of conversation in all these games. Like yes, we had our issues with the Super Bowl and the field and all, but like that's a unique thing.
Yeah.
It's not like we're talking about the NFL wanted us to lose. Like we never say that. It never happens.
Well, what I think the NFL likes, like the NBA, there were a lot of years where it's, well, the Sixers aren't going to go to the finals because LeBron's there. Or in the West, it's, the Warriors are just going to go.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas I think
the
NFL probably doesn't want to get to a point where it's, the Chiefs are just going to go and the Eagles are just going to go. I think they would choose to have the Brady thing's an interesting debate because there's some coolness about him winning, whatever. But I think the NFL would choose to have two different teams every year because then that's two new fan bases that have hope. That's the overarching thought that any team could make it. And so when you look at how they did these schedules, it's probably not a coincidence that the Eagles and the Chiefs got two of the hardest schedules.
Right. Well, they also won played in the Super
I'm saying in
Bowl.
rest.
Like they were. No, I know.
Yeah.
I know the resting. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Just in general, like the schedule was going to be hard.
It was, but if we go down the Warren Sharp path of the one thing they can control is rest.
Yeah.
They gave the Eagles and the Chiefs two of the hardest paths.
They can control it to a point. They still need to even out all of this stuff and
right.
Like it is a complicated mix to get all these teams like the travel.
It is. It's extremely
no team
tough.
can have this many days in a row. Like it is like that's why computers do it.
But they could look and go,
this is not right for the Eagles.
Yeah,
I agree.
Look,
I have not been with you on the disrespect thing, especially because I like this. And again, we acknowledge the opponents are tough. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I like the way it was laid out more than you did. This is the biggest thing where I'm like, that, when you look at it from that perspective, and especially when it's the Chiefs and the Eagles, both among the bottom 7 or 8 or whatever it is, it's like,
like they'd probably rather have the Jets in the Super Bowl.
I guess so.
New York, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, I think they would. I think they would.
Encourages trades.
Hey, NFL, I got bad news for you.
Well,
the Jets are not going to be in the Super Bowl.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't.
I don't want the Jets to make the play.
It is. You're hated the Jets. Like, so it's funny because you always used to be like, oh, I don't hate the Jets. Right. Now that Aaron Rodgers is there, I'm totally rooting against him. So we are on the same page finally with this. It is pretty wild, though. I know we've talked about it a lot this offseason, and it's part of the reason I'm so bullish about the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl and all that. But, like, when you just stop and, like, list the guys, like, the quarterback in our lifetime, it's never been this. There has never been a bigger disparity from one guy to the other in terms of quarterbacks. Like, again, we always say it's Jalen, then, like, Dak's probably number 2, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, like, the AFC has Mahomes, Herbert, Lamar, Burrow, Rodgers, like
Tua, Russell Wilson.
That's what I mean. Like the guys who are like 7, 8, 9 on the list would be like 2, 3 in the NFC.
How many quarterbacks then there's the whole is Mahomes 1 is whatever, but how many quarterbacks in the AFC would definitively be number 2 from the AFC to the NFC?
Okay, so Herbert
Burrow, would definitely number 2.
Herbert, Burrow, both absolutely. I think Lamar Jackson would definitely be number 2.
I agree with that.
I think
would Russell Wilson?
I don't think I'm not sure. Let's table Russell Wilson. He might let's table. He had a rough year last year. I think Aaron Rodgers, you probably still put out a Dak.
Agreed.
Tua, I'm not sure about.
Tua was good last year.
Tua was solid. I think Tua's in the discussion. I'd still probably take Dak because of the health and the ability to stay on the field and feeling more confident about that with the concussion stuff.
Right.
But like they're similar in terms of production.
Yeah, Dak's missed a lot of time.
Yes, he has. It's the concussion thing.
Concussion thing, I agree. It's completely out of your control.
We forgot Josh Allen. Josh Allen. Think about that. That's 5 like just off the cuff.
I almost want to get the
you pull up the standings and just look at the teams. Like it's super it is pretty astounding. When you look at this.
There's no more pressure than when I'm typing to look something up when we're on the air.
Oh, it's the worst, right?
Because it's like, oh my God. So, all right. So Josh Allen, Tua.
Yep.
Is Mac Jones number 2?
No, I don't think so.
Aaron Rodgers is.
Aaron Rodgers is for sure.
Joe Burrow is. Lamar is. Kenny Pickett?
Probably not. I knew you're a big Pickett guy.
Deshaun Watson. I think he blows now, but
I don't think after last year, I don't think Trey Lawrence, so you can make an
argument. But
Trevor Lawrence.
I agree with that. Here's an interesting thing. If the NFC teams had a draft of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, who goes first? Obviously, Jalen goes first. But does Dak, who goes first, Dak or Deshaun Watson?
I mean, probably Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. So I think you could argue. I think you could argue he's number 2.
I mean, you could. It was just so bad last year.
Right.
But you're right. You could.
And then, Texans, Colts, and Titans, whatever.
Yeah, but then Russell, you could argue. I mean, not
Jimmy G.
I mean, he'd be in that. We'd mention him when we're doing all those things.
And then we already did Russell.
Yeah, and then Trevor Lawrence in there. Like that is like at least 7 or 8 guys who would be number 2 in the NFC.
Yeah. It's wild.
It really is. Like I know we've mentioned it, but like when you really think about it, it is unlike
Well,
anything we've seen.
that's what's good for the Eagles is I think we all know they have a high ceiling. Sometimes we differ on how low their floor is. Mine, just because of Super Bowl hangover, you're not worried about that as much. But what's nice is the NFC does raise the floor.
And also, like, not even
although they don't play a lot of these.
And Justin Fields is the guy who could take a leap theoretically. I'm not expecting it, but we didn't even mention the fact that the 3 first-round picks were in the AFC. This year.
Exactly.
Like the top 4 picks, and even that Will Levis went second, but all 4 of those guys went AFC.
Yep.
So
it's better over there for quarterbacks.
It is good pretty wild, though. It is pretty wild.
Is.
So, Daniel Jones. Of course.
Yeah, Daniel Jones.
They're gonna be horrible.
Oh, they're gonna be. So
Honestly, I think they're gonna be like 6-win team this year.
I agree.
That's where I'm at.
So I really looked at their schedule. It is brutal.
It is brutal
because not only is it brutal to start, they play the Eagles 2 of the final 3 games.
Yeah,
and the Saints is their other game.
And again, we talked about it, they have 7 road games in 9 games.
Yeah,
that's like unheard of.
It really is. But also the ending, like you would think, okay, well the beginning's really tough, so maybe the ending. The Packers, who I think are going to be better than people think.
I think they might be.
They have talent. Jordan, they have a better roster than the Giants do.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And Jordan Love he looked good against us. Like, who knows?
He's probably just as good as Daniel Jones.
He flashed. He certainly could be.
Right.
He's a first-round pick once upon a time.
They're not going to beat the Eagles in a game that matters. Like, maybe the last one doesn't matter, but if it matters, they will not beat the Eagles.
I 100% agree.
And then the Saints, I'm in on Derek Carr. The Saints were almost a playoff team last year. The Giants' schedule is brutal.
Brutal. It really is.
I can't wait.
It's so good.
I know.
No one I like.
Well, especially because Giants fans get so mad at me when I tweet things that's why I really want them to fail.
Oh, it's the best. Well, especially because and we just saw it with the playoff game, Giants fans somehow after I guess it's because they were the worst team for a decade that they're finally a glimmer of hope. Bring the hope back. They're the most misguided fan base.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. We did that.
I think the Giants. That line ended up being 3.
It was unbelievable.
Something absurd like that.
Yeah. And they whooped their asses.
I forgot how bad that was. I went and looked back at the box score.
It's 35-7 or 38-7.
Yeah, 38-7. I always think of that as more like a 28-10.
38-7.
Yeah, I forgot how bad they were.
And also, it would be fun to see Dable struggle because everyone's like, oh.
Oh, I agree. The biggest fraud head coach of the year. I think
Joe Shane might be a fraud. I mean, especially when you look at the Daniel Jones thing versus her. I mean,
I agree.
Love it. Love it.
There we go.
I feel good now.
Yeah,
better than I did before.
Thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
All right. We got, if you're watching the YouTube, see Disney Advantage watching
we
YouTube.
doing final thoughts?
Yeah, we're going to. I'm just letting people know what's coming up. Stay here. We're going to do the Parks Picks Pod next, or the Bet Parks Picks Pod next.
Yes.
So stay with us. That'll be fun. You get a little bonus.
Extra pod.
And let's do a little final thoughts.
All right. So I'll go first.
Yeah, please.
So I have to give a speech tonight.
This is so funny. So go ahead.
Okay, so
yes, you're doing your book thing tonight.
Yeah, so tonight is, and by the way, if you're watching live, you live in Philly, there's going to be an event tonight for the money everybody raised for
the
books this year. Yeah, it's a thank you thing. The details I tweeted out, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's food, drinks. I think it's at well, I know where it's at, but I can't remember the name right now. It's the brewery that's on Spring Garden, 4th. Is it? It's not Victory. Okay, there we go. Whatever. So anyway, I have to give a speech.
I tweet less than you, so it's much easier to find.
There we go.
Okay, so Treehouse Books. Hold on.
Right, click it.
Yep, I got the link. Hold on. Let's see where we're at here. Hold on.
Slowly, surely.
Slowly. It's at the bottom, I guess. Yeah, I'm seeing the sponsors.
Nope. Yeah. Anyway.
Must be you talk. I'll find it.
So I have to give a speech tonight. And what's interesting about Yards Brewer, that's it.
500
yes.
Spring Gardens.
Yes. So what's interesting about giving speeches is, first of all, we talk for a living. So you would think it would be no big deal. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
But it is just so different.
It's completely different.
It's not even comparable. People think because I'm on radio, it's so easy to speak in public. I think I have advantages in the way that I know how to build my point and I intertwine things. But I'm so nervous to do it.
Oh, buddy.
I know.
You're going to do great.
Well, but it's also tough because when I give a best man speech, you know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah, please.
So they want me to give remarks. It's 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm getting an award as a champion of literacy. No big deal to me. But do you think it's expected for me to do
literacy is such a great.
I know, it's so funny.
It's awesome.
But do you think it's expected that I'm allowed to give thank yous?
What do you mean? Thank you to
Right. So the speech I have right now is basically, first of all, it's tough to make a joke at the beginning. Do you want to hear my joke?
I do, obviously. What kind of?
All right, so it's going to be tough to deliver it in this moment. But basically, I'm going to get up there. Hopefully, they'll be here's Elliot, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say something man, I certainly picked a great year to do this book drive. And I think we can all agree the Eagles were only good this year because we all decided to do the book drive. So we
There
should.
you go.
You think that's good?
Yeah, it's good.
It's good enough, right?
Yeah, it's definitely good enough.
So anyway, so then I'm gonna have a few things about how like the Eagles are a team and it takes everybody to do it, and that's what this book drive was like. Blah blah blah. But I feel like I'm okay to end it with a few, thank you to my mom. Like, and it's not a victory, but that's what's weird. It's not a victory speech, but it is kind of an award.
That's what people do when they get awards.
Okay, so you think it's all right if I,
It's like literally every award
Okay,
speech you've
that's
ever
what I was
heard.
wondering.
Thank you, God.
you don't think
Thank
it would
you
be,
this,
I'm
thank you
taking
that.
it too seriously if I
No.
step up there and I'm like, thank you to
No.
my mom and dad for helping me.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, all
You're
right,
getting an
just checking.
award.
All right, I'm just checking.
No, yeah, I think that's good. Now you can feel it out. Like maybe if you get there and it's
Well,
like
I think I'm the first to go.
oh, buddy.
I wish I was at least third, so
Yeah,
I could.
It's so much easier when you just but at least you can get it done with.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Have
would
a
just like
couple-
to
have
know
a
what
couple
they're
beers
expecting.
before.
Well, definitely.
Yeah, you gotta get a little liquid courage.
I would just like to know what they're expecting, but I guess they're gonna get what they're gonna.
They're
get.
gonna get what they're gonna
Yeah.
get, and they're gonna like it. Damn it!
Well,
You're
they're
the
gonna
one
at least
who raised all the
pretend
books.
to. Yeah, they're gonna at least
So,
pretend to.
It's very ironic that you brought this up because I remember you mentioned you were doing this, but that you brought this up as your final thought because my final thought, I'm officiating a wedding on Saturday
Yes,
for the first
yes.
time ever.
Yes.
So my buddy Andrew, shout out to
Wow,
Andrew.
this is coincidental.
Andrew, right? And we're
Yeah.
both speaking in front of crowds, which again,
Did you
we
write
don't
it
do.
yet?
So we're writing it together. Like they're
Oh,
helping.
you're doing it with some. Oh, with the couple.
No, the
Yeah.
couple like is helping me kind of stuff they want me to hit, and then I'm filling in the
Right.
rest or whatever. So, but yeah, so I'm officiating a wedding on Saturday. I like
All right,
never
let's hear
done it.
What are you thinking?
I'm nervous too, and I enjoy being up in front of a crowd. Like
Yeah.
obviously, this job is not that. It really isn't. But I like that too. I'm a big like get on a stage.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a center of attention guy.
Yeah.
I just am. It
Well,
is
once
what
you're in
is.
it's a high like none
It's
other.
a high.
It's just getting to the point of where it's going
Yeah.
well. That's the
Yeah.
nerve wracking.
So and I'm nervous though because normally when I do it, I can like riff and do my thing and stuff. Like I'm doing a wedding.
right,
Like I can't
you're not the center of attention.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I am like showcasing them as the center of
I'm
attention.
trying to think of what I've seen officiants do that I would advise you don't do.
Ooh, I like this. Yes.
I feel
please.
like what helps you is there's a clear expectation. I think a lot of them go like this. It's like, we're here today to marry, what are their names?
Andrew and Chelsea.
Andrew and Chelsea. First of all, can't believe that we're here. Is that right? Ha, ha, ha. If you would have known Andrew back in the day, it's crazy to think that he's now standing here with Chelsea. The Andrew I know certainly was a
Yeah,
wild duck.
I
Right?
will not do that.
Well, like
No
that's
worries.
what people do. And
Yes.
it's like, Chelsea, you've grounded him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So when my sister officiated my wedding,
She did an amazing
yeah.
job.
Well, what
Like,
I think
absolutely crushed it.
what I think I liked a lot about hers was like it wasn't so much, it was about me and Kristen, but it was also just like
About marriage.
yes. And I kind of think that should be your path.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Okay.
What do you
I like
thinking?
that. I know it. Well, I'm writing it tonight.
Right. Because
So-
I feel like everyone gives a story. It's like, man, like when they first met, like, I don't know. I think you should do a little more about how much it means to you in a way to like watch this. I don't know. Maybe that's not it.
No, I get what you're saying though.
You don't want to make it about you.
I need to merge them. It needs to be about them, but also about marriage.
I think you should think of it like a best man speech.
Okay. Well,
That would be my advice.
Maybe a few less zingers than Christmas.
Yeah, maybe no zingers.
Maybe no
but it's
zingers.
always so much better to start with a laugh.
I
It
definitely
calms
need
the room.
Yeah, I definitely need a laugh or two.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's gonna happen. So we'll see how it
and it'll
goes.
go good no matter what.
Yeah. Either way, I'm gonna officiate a wedding, and they're
Yeah.
gonna get married. I'm ordained now, so that's thrilling.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
think what helps you in this spot is when you're giving a best man speech, you're expected to be funny. And you're expected
It's
to
a good
entertain.
point.
You are,
No,
even if it's boring and down the middle, that's
Yeah.
fine.
It'll be quick,
Yeah,
which
this
is
is
all
there
anyone
for
cares
post.
about.
That's
yeah.
the other thing. I would make it short.
Oh, it's short.
Yeah.
They wanted short. So
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
I would not
please.
make it like 4 or
No,
5 minutes.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll be like 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean everything, not like
That's
the
what I mean. Yeah,
part
the whole
of
thing. Like, well, they have their vows. I don't know how long they're.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, yeah. Okay, good. All right.
public speaking week at
Public speaking week.
dude, I have a
No big deal. Just a lifelong memories for me. At least you. It's like like it's a fun night. Not like people aren't gonna be like,
yeah, exactly.
that was the seminal night of my life. Like I have a chance to ruin the seminal moment of people's lives.
Well, make
So
sure you
let's,
get their
know,
names right.
Yes, Andrew and Chelsea. That part I
Yeah.
feel good about.
I have a insane story about public speaking in high school to the point that I don't even know if it's appropriate for on air. And I know we have to get to the park spot, but I'm debating.
Why don't you think about it
Okay,
as a tease?
as a tease,
Now, the people who are here, they'll
maybe
know.
at the end of the park spot.
And if check out the end of the park spot
Yeah.
to see if we did this or not. Give Elliot a chance to think about it and see
Yeah.
if he wants to do it.
Okay.
Good.
That's fair.
All right. Awesome. Check out the Back Parks Picks Pod. It's coming up next. If you're watching us, if not, just scroll up on your little iPod thing or wherever you get your.
Hit next.
It'll be there. All right. Until then, he's Elliot James. Boom. That was great.
It was very good.
I don't know how we went 50.
Well, I also
4
don't know if we
minutes.
want to compliment ourselves when we're still live, but I did think it was a good. I did think it was a good.
Yeah, we
discussion.
sometimes compliment ourselves after a pod.
Yeah.
Be like, great job, buddy.
Yeah.
You too, pal. So, all right, we'll keep it live.
All right.
Bet Parks. All right.
So you want to go? We did divisions recently.
No.
We did.
We did?
I think within the last month.
Really?
I'm pretty sure before the draft.
I think we did the NFC East.
No. I feel like we were talking about the Jaguars and who drafts a quarterback. And
I don't remember.
well, let's do it again.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Should we start with NBA or then?
Sure. I know you're just going to talk about the Nuggets, but yes, we will.
Well, they're going to win. So
I know.
We just can't handle it.
No.
Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Sportsbook and Casino at the Bet Parks Picks Pod. And if you were
Nicely
just
done.
watching on the, thank you. I messed up last time, so I'm proud of myself. Auto download the pod. It
There it
really
is.
helps us out. It really means a lot to us. We literally have asked for nothing ever. So just click auto download.
5-star reviews and auto downloads.
yeah.
That's our currency.
It means a lot. It's our currency. And if you have to choose one, auto download.
Yes.
But we appreciate that.
Well, yes.
I
do
know
love
they
a
make
good
you
review,
happy,
but yes, you're right. The auto
yeah,
download.
like help us out.
Yeah.
We love you, love us.
Yes.
So let's just dive right into it. If you were on the video, you got to hear Elliot. We're gonna Bet Parks Big Pod. We're gonna get into some NFL futures, but let's start with what's happening right now. The thing we're most likely betting on, the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
And Elliot hates it because I keep hammering him with the fact that Jokic is just better than Embiid. You have to accept it. The Nuggets are probably gonna win the title. It is what it is. bro.
So
you
here's
gotta
the thing.
accept it.
I'm willing to admit that emotionally right now is impacting my decision. I'm willing to admit that. There's no hiding it. Yes. Okay. But I do believe at my core that Embiid's a better player. But I can't do it right now without sounding like I'm just being the sorest loser, hater, and never going
At
to
least
change
you
his
recognize
mind.
it.
Like, I recognize it's impossible to do right now because Jokic is obviously having a great postseason, and he had a great game one. And Embiid is known as the biggest loser in the world right now. So I recognize that. I'm just letting you know, I cannot watch them play, look at Jokic and look at Embiid, and sleep at night thinking that I think Jokic is better than Embiid. I cannot do it. I will not do it. I will not do it. If they win the title, I will still think Embiid is better.
Oh, man.
I do not care. I do not care. And let me tell you this.
34, 21,
I know.
and 14.
First of all,
in the Western Conference Finals, a round of the playoffs that Embiid has never even appeared in.
yeah, I just don't care. Okay, all these stupid rebounds he gets. It's like, bro, relax. Okay, like we
Yeah,
get it.
Stop trying so
Yeah,
hard. Be more like
we get
Embiid
it. Wow,
and
it's so
not
cool.
care.
You barely jump, and the ball just happens to come to
Embiid
you
with
all
his
the
2
time.
rebounds
And
in
also,
the first half of Game 7. That
passing
was
is
better.
the
I preferred that.
Passing is the easiest skill in the
Oh,
NBA.
my
So
goodness.
this like assist thing, it's like he's just letting other people do work. But here's
making everyone better.
here's the core of what you will never change my mind on. The Nuggets are better when Jamal Murray is good.
But Jamal Murray is so good because of Jokic. What don't you understand about
I
that?
don't know about
Jokic makes everyone better. They trip double and
Like-
triple team him, and he always makes the right decision.
Oh my
Embiid
God!
throws the ball
Wow!
in the freaking
Wow!
stands, and Jokic.
Well, his turnovers were
But
better
wow,
this year.
it does matter though. That's the point. Is Jokic gets double team, and he's like, "Oh, Murray, boom, oh, boom." Like that matters.
If I
That's
was
the
a coach,
position.
if I was a coach against the Nuggets, I would single cover Jokic and make him beat me.
he would dominate you.
I don't know if he would.
He has when
He
puts
can
you
barely
on the
jump. I
knees.
can't stand watching him. He's not athletic. He doesn't run back. He's not good on defense. He's so frumpy. Like, I can't do it. I refuse. I refuse. No matter what you say to me, I am not going to compliment Jokic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not go. I have strengths as a human. I have weaknesses as a human. Maybe this is my weakness, but I firmly believe it's a strength in that I am analyzing this better than other people. I don't care about these stupid video game numbers he puts
You
up.
don't care about winning in the playoffs? Is that not important to you? Or
Look,
is
the
that-
Suns
is
were
that
a good
better?
opponent, but also the
They
Suns
beat
were
them.
missing Chris Paul, and they were just a new team together. The Celtics are better than any team that, in my opinion, the Nuggets have played.
Oh, they weren't better than the Heat last night.
The Sixers also beat the Heat, the Celtics in game one. They did. And Harden had a better game one than Jimmy did. For all this, like, oh, well, first of all, let me
I love gay. So for those who don't know, there is nothing right now. Elliot this week is like so wound up. He was really invested in this team.
But I believe it.
I know you do.
I know,
I'm
okay.
not saying it's not. I'm
Right.
just saying you were so like you were about as easy as you've ever been to like because one of the things we always joked about in the history of the pod is like how calm, cool, and collected.
Right.
Are you? Like that right there. That even that little freak out, like that never happens.
I know,
Like we
I
could be
agree.
arguing about the Eagles, and I could be yelling at you at the top of my lungs, and you're like, yeah, well, like it is
agree.
it's the first time you
Agree.
it's great. I love
agree.
seeing you twist it all up.
Yeah, maybe it's not healthy for me. I don't know. But this whole playoff Jimmy thing, and it's like, well, what if the Sixers had Jimmy? Guess what, guys? They had Jimmy. They had Jimmy on the roster. If they had Jimmy, they would have. Jimmy choked in Game 7 against the Raptors.
Well, he made the biggest shot of the game.
A layup on a fast break. He had 16 points in the game. He was 1 from 6 from 3. He was not great the rest of that series. His floor was higher than Harden's in that way. But again, I'm not going to win any Sixers debates right now. But Harden won them 2 games against the Celtics. All this like, well, look what Jimmy did last night. Blah, blah. And also this whole, well, Tatum's a winner. Tatum had 0 points in the fourth quarter last night. Tatum got carried to game 6 and 7 by Marcus Smart. It's a fact.
Well, he put up 51.
He did. He was great in Game 7, but there is no Game 7 because he was so bad the rest of the series unless Marcus Smart like carries him there.
He's been in the NBA Finals. He's been the best
He
player
has.
on an
I
NBA
like
Finals
Tatum.
team.
I really like
Joel
Tatum.
Embiid has not been the best player on a conference finals team.
I know.
Like at a certain
I
point,
agree. There's nothing
especially
I can say
Jack
about
had a
it.
great line to you that was kind of missed in the text thread, but he's like if it were football, this is QB wins. QB wins matter.
I agree with that.
How can you have that stance in football, but then not apply it to basketball as well?
But to be fair, he also then brought up how I would bring it up with Carson. The difference is Embiid wins.
Forget what Jack
Well,
said.
well, you want to bring up one of his texts.
QB wins.
The point I'm making is Joel has a lot of QB wins. He does. He wins a lot in the regular season. He wins in the first round of the
playoff
playoffs.
wins, though, right?
I agree.
Isn't that what we judge by?
I agree. Aaron Rodgers hasn't won a Super Bowl in 15 years.
Do you hear me saying Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I'm saying that Joel has
and
a lot
by the way, Aaron Rodgers did win a Super Bowl.
I know he did.
I know it's been a long time.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers has also been in the
Look,
conference.
there's no denying.
Hold up. Aaron Rodgers has been in the conference title game like 4 or 5 times in that time. He's lost a lot, but he's at least been there.
Yes. Listen, there's no defending Joel's playoff record. I think that people are being too harsh to him right now, which is understandable because people are very upset. Joel is still, in my opinion, a top 5 player in the league. He deserved every ounce of that MVP he got. I'm happy he got it. All these people are tweeting me like, oh, do you still think it's like a championship? Yes, I do. I do. And I feel it even more. I'm even happier I felt that way about it because now I got to enjoy it. Whereas other people,
you're the only person.
It's fine. I will be on the biggest island by myself, having a great time throwing a parade with Embiid with this MVP trophy.
Yes,
I will. And also,
I'm so happy he won his individual award while my team lost.
I am thrilled.
Game 7 and the players didn't show up.
Yeah,
like,
I'm thrilled he won it.
Oh, you're stupid MVP.
It's not a stupid MVP.
It is stupid. It's a shame because it wasn't when he won it, and now it is. Now it's a joke.
No,
now it's like,
I think Dirk's was a joke.
It's a symbol. Dirk won the title, man.
No, but I'm saying the year Dirk got MVP and he was eliminated by the Warriors, that I think really impacted the MVP. I don't think this one. It does to a section of Sixers fans. I don't think
it does to all of them. Don't say a section.
I think only.
Okay, so you think your poll is just wrong?
No. I think more people don't care about it. I agree with you on that. Yeah. But I'm saying there are Sixers fans that feel the way I feel.
But I think the
brave few, by the way, who are willing to like admit that it's okay to be happy about that.
It was okay to be happy about the MVP, but to compare, it's like I think the vast majority of Sixers fans don't care about the MVP and want playoff wins. Like that's what it comes down to.
I would also like playoff wins, but I also love that he got MVP.
Again, but when you lose the way you did, like
it was a disappointing loss.
It loses all its luster.
I disagree.
Its luster.
We talked about Chuck Bednarik or whatever.
The only MVP in the history of the NBA to not make the finals. That is a wild stat.
But our emotions on this aside, I do think that's a bit of a flawed stat because Jokic, once he makes the conference finals,
Jokic just made it twice.
No, I know, but I'm saying. The stat is not he's the only one the year he wins it to not make the conference finals. He has not done it in his career. So once he does it, then he won't be on that list anymore.
Okay, do it.
Yeah.
But again, that's the point.
But what I'm saying is I wonder how many players at the time they won MVP were on this list but are no longer on it.
No, I think a lot of them had already got it, would be my guess. Again, do you know how hard it is to be the best player in the league and not get to the conference finals?
I don't think it's that hard. I really don't.
Really? How many times did Jordan not get to the conference finals?
Well, look, okay, you're going to pick the best player of all time.
You're the best player in the NBA.
Well, Dirk got it one year and he got bounced in the first round.
Dirk was the best player in the league for like 1 year when he won the MVP.
Yeah, Joel was the best player of the year this year.
LeBron was still the best player in the NBA.
I don't
Like
remember what year
LeBron.
that
How often
was.
does LeBron not get to the conference finals? I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
LeBron's the second best player of all time.
Right. Embiid was the best player in the NBA this
Agreed.
year, and he couldn't get to the conference finals.
Because he got matched with the Celtics in the second round. You know what the sickest
It's a
part of all
loser move right
it's
there.
but it's just the truth. But the sickest part of all this is if the Sixers were the 4 seed, they're still playing.
Maybe. Honestly, I think the Heat.
I know
beat
you think
them.
the Heat
I
would-
really do.
I don't.
Like,
We
from
whatever.
like again, I think you underrate this Heat team. Like
No,
they
look,
show up and they care and they play hard and they win games. Like again, they've been great in the playoffs.
well, what's funny is didn't we say was it the Heat or no, it was the Warriors that we thought plus
Warriors, we
1800 were
thought.
good.
Yeah, I wish we.
But
had
I
said
think the
Heat.
Heat
They were higher. They were like plus
even yesterday, I think they were
2400.
plus 1300.
Which
This
is
was before the
crazy.
game. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm
Obviously,
sure
it's
it's
gone down.
changed.
But what's funny is before the playoffs, when I was debating with friends and like on the Clap Your Hands pod, who would you rather play?
Check out the Clap Your Hands.
Thank you. The Heat or the Heat or the Nets? I was Mr. Well, it's playoff Jimmy and like blah blah blah. So I acknowledge the Heat. I would bet my life that the Sixers would have beat the Heat in a series. I would bet my life.
Well, you might be dead.
I don't think I would be.
Let's look at the championship odds now.
Pretty sure. About
Have you
that.
seen the championship odds?
I've not.
Would
Well,
you-
no, that's not true. I have.
oh yeah.
Well, because I just saw him a second ago.
Okay, so then you know that Denver and Boston, the clear co-favorites. Denver plus 140, Boston plus 145, Lakers plus 550, the Heat plus 800. I think the Nuggets are going to win the title. I've said this to you for a while. I've said it for a few weeks now. I said
I
it to you.
know.
But I
I think
think
the Lakers are
clearly.
gonna
Well, I
beat
think either way, if you're betting, like bet on the Lakers or the Heat.
Yeah.
I mean, plus 550. The Heat are up 1-0 and then plus 800. Like, and the thing is,
Well, here's what's so funny.
it's open
It's so telling. 2 things. When we give betting advice, there are 2 things that are extremely clear.
that we just like long odds.
1, we do not bet to win.
We do not bet
And
to win.
2, we bet small quantities of money.
That's very
because-
clear. Yes,
because
because
if
I don't
you're
want to win
betting-
like $3. It's I want to bet $3.
Exactly.
I want to win a lot
So,
more.
so
Such a great point.
if
Elliot.
you're betting $5 plus 800 more enticing,
yeah,
because
if you're
going to win.
if you bet $100, I would bet on the Nuggets.
Yeah, or
And-
I mean, look, I would never in a million years do this, but if you're betting like $1,000, I think
and then it's a different thing.
right.
Because
'Cause then
you
you
would
would-
not say it there.
I still
That's-
think the Celtics are going to win, but they might be fraudulent. I don't, whatever. But I think the Lakers are still the best bet. I think the Lakers are going to beat the Nuggets.
So you know what's interesting too is that
Not to mention the Nugget. Well,
what's interesting is that the Lakers, they have better odds to win the title than the Heat. They have worse odds to get out of the conference finals, which is interesting. So the Heat, the Eastern Conference odds are Boston minus 225 to win it. The Heat are plus 170 to win the series. The Western Conference, the Nuggets are minus 278, and the Lakers are plus 220. So the Lakers are actually a bigger underdog in their series than the Heat are, even though they're a bigger favorite to win the title
Right.
if they can get through it.
I think I processed that. I'm not sure if I did. So you know what else makes Jokic lame? Are you ready?
Sure.
So don't you think it's a little coincidental that somebody that is very clearly not like, muscle from head to toe plays in an arena where every other athlete that comes there is at a competitive disadvantage because of the
I mean, what am
I think that helps him out as an athlete. Like Jokic
I
is
can't blame him for that. It's not his
I think
fault.
I'm not saying it's his
He got
fault.
drafted by the Nuggets and he plays for
I
the
know.
Nuggets.
I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm saying it clearly helps him.
I think it helps the Nuggets. Yeah. And
Yeah.
look, maybe look, he still has to. You're the one who's like he's fat and out of shape. He's supposed to play at high altitude.
But he's
wouldn't it-
used to it. So whereas
Yeah,
other
dude,
it evens the playing field.
a little bit. You know,
A lot of it. He lives in
altitude-
Denver.
He does, but high altitude is still messed up for anybody.
Agreed.
Like, yeah.
But it's universally accepted that the Nuggets have an
They
advantage.
definitely do. They
That's the
play
point
there.
I'm
I'm
making.
sure it's an advantage. But of all the players on the team who get an advantage, Jokic probably gets the least advantage because of how big he is and how shape and or not.
He gets
like,
the least
not
advantage
shape.
of the players on the Nuggets.
That's my point.
Yeah,
of course. the
But
Nuggets
if
have an advantage.
Joel's like a,
It's absolutely an advantage.
Yeah.
There's no argument. It's the biggest home.
I think his
court or
MVP
field
should have an
advantage in sports.
asterisk.
So should
this title
Joel.
certainly will.
Joel should too, or the last week says lost in the second round again.
Oh my God, people in the second round thing.
Oh, it's a thing. What do you mean?
I
6
ju-
years
I
in a
get it. I
row.
do, but-
minus the 1 year they lost in the first round.
I get it, but I think Daryl Morey was correct when he was like 26 teams or whatever it was would probably swap rosters with
He was
us.
wrong about that.
I don't know about.
Oh no,
that.
he was because like wouldn't you take the Spurs roster right now? Because I would. I would take Wembanyama and all the cap space that they have over the Sixers. I think there are teams that are not like
It's an
one of the
interesting
top
one.
4. He's saying the top 4 teams than us. I think there are a lot of situations I would take over the Sixers, especially me not believing in the Harden and Embiid thing moving forward.
Dude, what do you think?
Like I would take the Spurs. Like I would rather be the Cavs.
I would definitely not rather be
Why not? I mean, they got 3 dudes. They got
Oh,
Mitchell,
they have one
Mobley, and
dude.
and Garland.
Yeah, but
I think Mobley's one of the better.
I know
young
you like
players in the
Mobley a
NBA.
lot. I know.
But regardless, I'm saying I might at least take the Cavs.
Right.
That would be something I would consider.
Yeah, you're talking about upside picks over.
I'm talking about rosters and
Yes.
situations that I would take. Like,
Yeah.
period.
Maybe there's more than 6 of them or whatever it is. But I think he was correct in saying that they're not one of the worst situations in the league.
No,
They're one of the best. It's just a matter of where they rank.
See, I don't.
What do you
again,
think the odds are going to be on Wembanyama winning Rookie of the Year?
Like
Minus 800.
more, minus 1,500. Woj says the best prospect in the history of team sports. Like a psycho.
I think if you're betting that, obviously, clearly, it's not a bet we're going to make. You think you just have to hope he gets hurt. Like you bet somebody else,
against it,
and yeah,
yes.
you hope that.
I saw that the odds, like they're not offering them most places, but where they are, like the odds for like Brandon Miller to be the second pick are like plus 99999 or whatever.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if it's
but I did see the same thing.
Yeah.
It was like a joke off of the Will Levis.
Will Levis thing. Like, he's telling people it's happening,
right? Yeah.
But look, it's an interesting discussion about their roster and whether, but again, I think the bigger thing is whether you believe in Embiid and Harden moving forward. And if Harden's going to be here, which I think we think he will be, but
I think he will be too. I do wonder if he just wants to leave. But I think he
is a loser. I wouldn't be shocked. He's just like, I want to just go.
He does have better playoff stats than Jimmy.
He's such a loser. He's not, come on, dude.
He does.
He is not 1/10 the playoff player that Jimmy is.
Oh,
I don't care about stats. Jimmy's nickname is Playoff Jimmy. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but that's narrative driven.
With much worse teams, and he's getting
but his teams are worse because he's not as good.
No, because
like he's a lower seed consistently because he's not as good of a player.
James Harden is absolutely at a better career than Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
He is a more elite talent and all that. I will take Jimmy Butler in a playoff game 1,000 times over James Harden. It's not even close.
Right.
Like the gap between, like, there are 50 players in between Jimmy Butler, who's like top 3 on my list I would take for a playoff game, and more James Harden.
Did you see my tweet about this yet?
No.
Okay. So what would your reaction be if I told you?
I don't care about stats.
I told you this little ditty.
Don't give me stats. I'm not going to care if you're going to say he averaged 24 points. We watch it with our eyes, man.
All right, tell me if this is tempting you, because it's not. Okay. Harden in the playoffs, he averages more points. He has more games over. He has more games with 40+ points.
Doesn't do anything.
He has more games with 30+ points.
How many times has he been in the finals?
He has a higher
with
play.
OKC when he was the third best player on the team. Is that it? Okay, cool.
Has a higher playoff winning percentage. He's won a bigger percentage of his games. He's been to the conference finals more, and he's been to the NBA finals the same amount of time. And you can say he was a third best player, but Jimmy went in the bubble.
So what? Jimmy's also been in the conference finals 2 years in a row. Jimmy, again, the way I would phrase it is if I have to pick one player to play on my team for the playoffs, it's not even a question. I would take Butler 1,000 times out of 1,000.
I think Harden's playoff reputation is sullied by the fact that he ran into the Warriors a bunch of times, and he played poorly in those games. But Jimmy, Jimmy would have never, ever, 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 ever beaten the Warriors team, ever.
What is it? James Harden at his peak was a way better player than Jimmy Butler. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
But James Harden's a loser. Like, that's the point. Like, what we just saw in Game 7, that was a loser, man. That was as loser.
What about Jimmy in Game 7 with the Sixers against Toronto?
He still played hard, and he still made defensive plays, and he still made the big play at the end of the game, and he was like in it. Like, James Harden checked out that basketball game. Are you kidding me? Like, they're not comparable. Like,
I don't know.
In a playoff, they are not comparable. Like, again, Jimmy Butler would be top 5 players I would take on my team. If I had to win one game, he'd be like a top 5 pick for me. Top 5 pick.
You're talking about the current league?
I'm talking about every player in the NBA right now. Jimmy Butler would be a top 5 pick for me to win one game. Like, that's how great he is.
It's an interesting one.
Might be a top 3 pick.
To be fair,
like Jokic 1, Curry 2, Jimmy
1.
Butler 3.
I'm not disagreeing with it. It's just funny.
I mostly said
to be fair, I know. To be fair, Harden did win 2 games almost single-handedly against the Celtics. But whatever.
Yeah,
no one wants to remember those games.
When it mattered most, you couldn't bet on James Harden.
We'll see if the Heat get to 7.
When it mattered most, you couldn't bet on James Harden. You know what you can bet on? All kinds of things with the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. It is the most fun. Again, we just talked about these games. I won money last night thanks to our guy, Jimmy Butler, because I bet on the Heat to win the game. Because I'm like, you know what? Boston coming off a big Game 7 win. They're going to take it lightly. Jimmy will never take it lightly. He will give every ounce of his soul.
It sounds so much like Harden.
Basketball game.
Sounds so much like Harden in Game 1 against the Celtics.
Could not care less. All he cares about is his own points and his own numbers and going to strip clubs. That's what James does.
Oh, there we go.
I wish I could bet on the future careers of both because I would take Jimmy by a mile. You can't, but there's so much you can bet on with the BetParx Sportsbook app. You can bet on pro basketball playoffs, baseball's back, golf and hockey playoffs, all kinds of action going on. It's a great time of year, and in your hand, when you're holding the BetParx Sportsbook app, you have everything you need to have some skin in the game, which is why it's fun. We're watching these games anyway. It's so much more fun to have some action on
Betting
these
against
games.
Jokic, always fun.
But betting on Jokic, also fun.
Never fun. Never fun.
Download the BetParx Sportsbook app right now. It's the only sportsbook app that we here at Go Birds recommend. You get live in-game betting, which is a wild ride. Big swings. You can make some money on those. I almost made some money on the Phillies live in game yesterday. Down 4-0. It was like the third, and they're like plus 680. I was like, that's crazy.
That is, it's a good bet. Didn't win it, but
it
it's
felt like
bet.
a great when they tied it 4-4. I was like, I'm a genius. Feel really good about this. And then ended up losing the money. But you know what? Though? It was a good bet. Like it didn't win, but it was a good bet. And live in-game betting gives you some real opportunities to make real money in a quick, short period of time. Of course, you can bet player performances, home runs, strikeouts, baseball, assists, rebound, sweeps, all the good stuff. And here's the deal. All new users bet $10, you get $125 in sportsbook bonus. If your first bet wins, BetParx has all the BetParx.com has the terms and conditions. New users are winning bets only. Sports bonus bet must be wagered once. See website for details. You must be 21 and present in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Ohio. Gambling problem, go in Andrew Gambler. All right. Should we do some football stuff or keep arguing about basketball?
I mean,
I'm enjoying it, to be honest. It's quite compelling for me.
As someone that I will hand up, I am a narrative driver. I love narratives. I love partaking in them. I love creating them.
I love partaking in them.
Yeah, like I enjoy the narrative thing. I'm just saying the narrative about playoff Jimmy is not backed up versus James Harden statistically. That's all I'm saying. It's the only point I'm making is that we can all look. Harden was bad in Game 7.
We watched Jimmy Butler play in these games, right? You watched.
Yes, and I watched him lose Game 7 on the road in Toronto and have 16 points and shoot 1 from 6 from 3. I watched that one too, right? So Harden was really, really bad when he was bad, but to act like he didn't do exactly what Jimmy did last night.
Never.
Everyone's all hype about Jimmy.
He didn't show up, man.
I agree with that.
Didn't show up.
But what would you call 16?
How many points he scores in a particular game? If in Game 7 he checks the hell out, like I don't care about any of it.
It's not like the Sixers get like energy points from Jimmy. You get they got in the 6th game. I'm saying
makes a difference because he's always going.
He had 16 points in Game 7.
Like, stop talking about
points. But it matters. Points is how you win or lose. How did he impact it? At the end of the game, he dribbled the ball out.
16 points. Guess what? That's still 7 more than James
Harden
had.
Harden was terrible in that game.
And they were up in Game 6, and Harden stopped playing for the 4th quarter. Like I just like again, I get it. Forget numbers. Take the numbers away.
But that's
no, it is not. You watch these games.
Yes, but the watching the games is where the numbers come from.
One guy is a playoff performer. One guy brings it every single playoff game he's in. It might not not always go down, but that dude is giving everything he has every single playoff game, and one dude doesn't. It's that simple.
But just all right, Harden's
so much more talented.
Let me finish.
Harden could be one of the best playoff players of all time. He just doesn't care. He doesn't take care of his body. He doesn't do any of it. Like he is a loser.
Wait, hold on. Let me finish my question. Okay, if James is a loser that doesn't take care of his body, that doesn't show up in the playoffs, that doesn't try all these times.
All these things.
Why does he average more points and have more big games?
Because all he cares about is points, and because when he was with Houston,
but he also wins more.
Hold up. When he was with Houston, all that he cared about was scoring points. That was his role on that team. He was the scorer. He had a season where he had like 8 50-plus point games or 10 50.
Yeah,
he averaged over 35 points a game. That was his role. That's not Jimmy Butler's role.
Well, he's also a way better passer than Jimmy, but whatever.
Harden is a way more talented player.
But I'm saying, the
way more.
The crux of our disagreement is
the point is James Harden should be a way better player than Butler in the playoffs.
Yes.
But Butler gets the most out of what he has, and Harden doesn't.
What I'm saying is he has been a way better player.
No, he hasn't. Stop it, dude. You sound ridiculous.
But
one guy's nickname is Playoff Jimmy, and the other guy is known as a choker in the playoffs.
But because the reason he's known as a choker.
You can't just look at numbers.
I'm not just looking at
numbers.
numbers.
Tell the story.
But let me say the reason he's known as a choker in the playoffs is because he went against the Warriors and got to Game 7 a lot, and he played poorly in those games. I agree.
He got benched.
I agree.
Josh Smith.
He played horribly in those games. I'm not disputing that. But what I'm saying is, you, in my opinion, are inflating Jimmy's playoff performance and deflating James. What I'm saying is, yes, Jimmy is a playoff player. I agree with that. He is better in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. But that doesn't change the fact that Harden has accomplished more in the playoffs than Jimmy.
No, he hasn't. He's never gotten to a final.
Yes,
as with OKC, he got carried to a finals. Jimmy Butler is the best player on a finals
in the bubble.
That whatever. He still got to a finals. He's gotten to the conference finals 3 of the last 4 years, Jimmy
Yes.
Butler, with a way deficient team from a talent perspective.
But he got this year, the Bucks he gets credit for to an extent. Giannis did miss 3 games, and then he got the New York Knicks in the second round.
He won.
He did.
He won,
But I
man.
think the Sixers would have won that series too.
What about last year? He got to the
Last year
conference
for
finals
sure.
last year, too.
I
all this dude
I am
does
a
is go
believer
out
in the
and win
Heat
games when he's
culture,
not
all
supposed
those
to. That
things.
stuff matters. Yeah.
I agree with. I'm a big the Heat, Spoelstra, all those
Yeah,
things.
Riley.
We are on the same page with that. I think Jimmy would be on,
So let's say this.
but I'm just saying Harden.
You have to win a playoff game tonight. Who would you rather have, Jimmy Butler or James Harden? Be real.
So
we never lie to the Go Birds.
I never lie.
Be real.
So you're talking about right now,
Tonight.
like today. The
Tonight,
current-
I have to win a playoff game. Yes, of course. That's all I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Nothing
So we're not
else
talking
matters.
about like a version of the player that's an average of what they've been. You're talking about the current player.
All right, screw it. For a playoff game, any version of them. Like
Well,
it's
yeah,
Butler
definitely
still.
Harden, though.
No, Harden is so much more talented, but not in the playoffs.
But can I ask you then? So game 1 against the Celtics, Harden was better in game 1 against the Celtics than Jimmy was in game 1 against
Well,
the
hold
Celtics.
up.
I'm just curious what you think
for what
about
it's worth,
that.
ESPN put out their top 25 player performances of all time in the history, or
Yes.
excuse me, conference finals performances of all time. And Jimmy Butler had 2 of the top 7 in the history of the conference finals. We're in ESPN.
To be
They're
fair,
running
that's
this.
obviously extremely subjective. But
No, it was a numbers thing. They did it based on, it was all percent. It was like he was a
Right.
46.5 and whatever this stupid thing they
right.
have.
You don't
was,
want to
but-
use stats.
No, I'm
I'm
it's,
just
it's
kidding.
not just
Yeah.
stats. That's the point. Is it
Well,
takes
didn't
all
you
these
say
things
Harden
into
had some
account.
of them too?
Harden was 11 and 16.
Okay,
Butler
so they
was
had the
2
same
and,
amount.
Butler was 2 and 7.
Right. So they had the same amount.
Yeah, and Butler was better.
Butler's was higher, subjectively higher.
Yeah, well, yeah, the whole thing's subjective.
Exactly.
Based
Yeah.
on
But
their
I'm saying
number
so
system. I guess
Mr.
it's objective to them.
So
on
I'm
their
saying
number
so
system.
Mr. Playoff Jimmy, that's like top 5, blah blah blah, has 2, and Harden,
Which
who's like
is, yeah.
the biggest choker
Again,
ever,
it's
doesn't
better.
try.
Well,
goes
again,
to
hold up. We
What?
know that Harden can have big games. These are
Yes.
about specific games. Do you really think that James Harden is not a playoff choker?
No,
really
I think that
that-
he has definitely choked in big spots.
Yes.
But I'm
So we're
saying
talking
so
about
has
Butler
Jimmy.
doesn't.
But
No,
so
he doesn't. Butler does not choke it. That's the point.
That
He might not always win, but Butler doesn't choke in
you
big
want to guess
spots.
how many
Butler
times?
shows up.
All right, you want to guess how many times in his career he's had 12 or fewer points in a playoff game?
I don't care.
Well, then what? Okay, then all right. So you don't.
Again, I don't. But I don't.
But it's
like,
18 times.
so what, man?
Well,
Jim-
but
These
you're
are different players.
I agree,
James
but-
Harden's role was to score for the vast majority of his career. His only job was go out and put up points. Jimmy
Right.
Butler's doing everything, man. Jimmy Butler's
Well,
playing
okay.
defense. Jimmy Butler's Jimmy Butler is 1,000 times a better defensive player than Harden. If
I
you're
agree
looking
with
at
that.
the
Yes,
type
I
of
agree with that,
basketball
yeah.
player, and in the playoffs, about winning games. It's not just about making shots. It's about doing all
Well,
of
to
it.
be fair, so Harden's being asked to do the hardest thing in the game, just right.
Oh, stop.
It is. You don't think scoring's the hardest thing to do in the NBA?
I mean, I think. What do you
Yes,
mean?
yes. I'm
No,
saying.
but again, like when your job. No, I don't. Like again, like
Okay.
do you know how many guys could average 20 points a game if a team just said, "All right, clear out and let this guy." Jeremy Grant averaged
Yeah,
20 points.
that's a little different, but yes, I
But
see your
that's the
point.
point, right?
Yeah,
Like, yes,
yeah.
you could score if you are
Right.
given the opportunities to score. You could score a lot of points. Most players in the NBA could put up 20-point
Right.
games if given the opportunities and the shots to score.
I think that Jimmy is benefiting from a narrative right now, whereas Harden is not. But you can dismiss stats all you want. The stats paint the picture. Harden has won a higher percentage of his games. Harden averages more points. Harden has bigger games. Like that's just.
Well, Jimmy was on some bad teams earlier.
But that's
There
his
was
fault.
What do you mean? He got drafted to them.
Well, no, I'm
and
saying.
then
Well, what
he
do you
got
think? What do you
traded.
think? How do you think Harden got in the NBA? I'm saying.
Harden was on a Thunder team that made the finals right away. He got
Yeah.
drafted
I'm saying
to
remove
Durant and
AKC.
Westbrook.
Remove OKC. I don't like Houston was great because of Harden, right?
Again, James Harden is a way better player than Jimmy Butler.
Yes. Yes.
I know.
Right.
That's why it is so crazy that when the playoffs start, Butler's a way better player than him.
You're saying because Butler improves and Jimmy does not.
Butler, absolutely.
Right.
But James goes the other way, and Butler becomes a much better playoffs when the
I'd be
lights are
curious
bright.
to
Like,
look
that
up.
matters.
I'd be curious to look up and see in the seasons where Harden had like insane stats, what his stats were in the playoffs. I'd just be curious to know.
Well, you could do that. It wouldn't be
I
very
could,
hard.
yeah.
It'd take like 2
Well, I'm not going to
minutes.
do it live. On
No, but it'd take
Yeah.
like 2 minutes on
Yeah.
Basketball Reference.
Probably take less than that.
Maybe. Yeah.
I bet I could get it done in
You're pretty quick with that.
Yeah.
Look at you.
45 seconds.
But
Maybe not actually. A minute and 15
again,
seconds.
I'm just saying you can't just look at the stats and say, "Oh, he's good." When again, you're really cherry picking points too with Harden, where it's like, again, that was all he was supposed to do was score points on that team. Like that was his job. That
and
was
it's what he
it.
did.
Sure, but
Yeah.
again, he didn't win big games.
But
He
I
didn't
also-
get to the finals.
But he went against the war. I think he unfortunately was at his best at a time when the Warriors were arguably
Yeah,
the best
he
stretch.
definitely
of,
got hurt by
yes,
that.
yeah.
But again, regardless, like Jimmy Butler's had way more big playoff moments than Harden. It is what it is. Like again, for whatever, forget what I'm saying.
I
Like,
know the ESPN list.
and not even the ESPN
Right.
list. Like I'm not the one who calls him playoff Jimmy. Like that's his nickname.
I agree.
That's
No,
what people
yes.
call him is playoff Jimmy. That's not just for
Yes,
nothing.
I agree
you know?
with that. I'm fighting an uphill battle. I agree with that. But I think that, and I'm not dismissing his playoff performances. I am saying Harden's playoff performances comparatively are not what people make him out to be. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And I hope they resign him to a max.
God.
I don't think he's going to get a max.
I don't know. I'm nervous about it. I definitely look. I acknowledge that the position they're in and the salary cap and all that it might be the smartest.
Just Josh
move for
Harris's
them.
money.
Well, not just. I mean, it might be the smartest thing. Like
Yeah.
they might not have a better alternative because if Harden leaves, then they can't sign someone to that price and all that annoying stuff. It's like I understand, but like if it's 4 years, like then I don't think it's like I'd rather not win the next couple of years and like if it's 4
You
years
might
for
as well
Harden,
trade him,
I'd rather
B.
blow it up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm at.
So if you let Harden walk and you can't turn Toby and Maxey into something,
It's over.
like, yeah, it is. I agree with that. You're not going to win the title next
Now
year.
that I mean, what they really should be trying to do, the best case is they should be re-signing Harden and trying to trade.
You can do both of those, right?
Yeah, trade Harris and Maxey. Try and get like Damon here or someone like
Yeah,
that. I don't
Zach
think you have
LaVine,
enough
I
without
think
the
would be a
picks.
good.
I don't think Zach LaVine's good enough.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's
I'm
good.
torn on
I just
him.
don't think. I think he's like a notch below what you need. But look,
Yeah, I
he's
would
a nice
agree with
player.
that.
But I think he's
As a third best option or second best.
yeah. Either way, I definitely I'm nervous about the future.
Well, good news. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen.
And
next
bet
year.
on the Nuggets.
You
to win the
ready?
title. Yes.
The Sixers are going to make the second round of the playoffs. They'll probably go 6 or 7 games, and we'll see if they get it this time. Like that's it. That's what's going to happen. At least unlike the Phillies, like who knows if they're going to make the playoffs? You know where the Sixers are going to be.
Phillies make the playoffs. Final thoughts.
Okay. I almost don't want to bear. Okay.
Are we doing it or no?
Oh, the speed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah, I'll tell the story.
Okay,
I'll tell the
good.
story.
I like it.
So in high school,
Delivering on the teas.
yeah. So in high school, I took a public speaking class,
Mhm.
and I was probably in 11th grade. And one of the things we had to do was give like a news broadcast. And what's funny is for mine, I actually stood on the podium and pretended to be the Sixers GM. And I
That's
remember
hilarious.
I defended Samuel Dallenberg at the time.
Really?
And, like people were like, and obviously I was really good at it, clearly. And so anyway,
Duh.
so these two girls did Naked News.
Mhm.
That was the show they did. Keep in mind, our teacher is in the room when this is happening.
Mhm.
They get up in front of the class. And
What age are you? at
I'm in
this?
11th grade.
Okay,
So I think there might have been 12th graders or 10th graders, but
Mhm.
I was in high school.
gotcha.
So these two girls get up in front of the class and proceed to strip down in front of the class to nothing but their bra and underwear.
What?
And at one point, the teacher goes, "Hands above the table, boys."
What?
In high school.
What?
How wild is that?
Oh my god!
Right? Could you imagine?
No.
Like at the time, I was
No.
blown away at the time.
Yeah.
But
In hindsight, it's even more.
in hindsight, it's like I'm surprised this guy didn't lose his job.
Yeah, like now it'd be like your story about the teacher. Teacher,
He
like,
would be
kids
fired.
stripping
He
class.
would be
Yeah.
fired.
You'd be fired.
Yes, I
Especially
agree.
like making jokes about it. And
Yes,
like letting girls strip down to their bra and under,
yes,
like,
in front of everybody.
wow,
Yeah,
wow,
right?
I can't believe that happened.
So anyway,
That was worth the tease.
not going to do that for my speech today. Not going to get up there and be like, hey, you're champion of literacy. He's actually a champion of naked news.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is.
It was wild.
That is wild. All right. I have 2 final thoughts. I'm gonna save one for next week. I'll tease the one next week. Next
All
week,
right.
I'm gonna tell you about something that's happening right now that is going to affect your life in a huge way
Wow.
that no one's talking.
I would ask you to tell me this off the air, but I think I'm just going to
Oh, I
wait.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
no one's talking about it. But instead, I will do a dumb one and say, do you ever have certain phrases that whenever you hear them, you automatically like think of a lyric in a song or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Take a break. Take a break.
You know, that
Go
wouldn't
to
be
the
one for
summer,
me.
go upstate. You know, from
Right,
Hamilton,
right.
when I hear the phrase "take a break," I automatically started singing it. Do you have phrases like that? Where
I
there's
do,
certain
but I
things where you
can't think of any.
automatically go into the song or whatever.
A lot of them are
'Cause I
like
do a lot.
a lot of them are like commercial based,
Uh-huh.
But yes, there are definitely things. I can't think of one right now, of
Take
course.
a break.
Or if like Kristen says something, it like triggers me to start.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, there are those things.
Okay, good. Yeah,
That's it.
seriously.
Okay,
I hear
okay.
"take a break" and I start singing "take a break."
Here's another unbelievable fact.
Yes.
I can't remember if I told you this on the pod, and I'm not exposing Rube because Rube is going to be on Go Birds Radio in a few weeks. So we can discuss this. Ruben Frank,
The Ruben Frank.
the Ruben Frank, GOAT beat writer, was in the media house, and he's talking about Hamilton,
Mhm.
And he's talking about how he just did research on Hamilton.
Mhm.
He is talking to Dave Zangaro about Hamilton.
The actual Alexander
Yes.
Hamilton. Yeah.
He read the book and knew about the book.
Uh-huh.
And he told me with a straight face, he did not know there was a play about
No,
Hamilton.
no, don't believe it. No, it was the biggest thing in the world.
It was like, and the craziest thing is, not only did he say he didn't know about it, he had just done research on Hamilton.
Yeah, like you Google.
If I put Hamilton in,
yeah,
right
it
now,
pops right up. I'm
it,
sure.
like, all right, I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah.
Alexander Hamilton. First of all, the second thing under like the suggested is lyrics.
Of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I look it up. And it's not there right away,
Well,
but whatever.
Trivia
There's
Wikipedia page is
yeah,
out
yeah.
first.
There, that was a deflating.
Yeah,
thing.
but there's no way that it doesn't.
There's
come
no
up
way.
On, yeah,
Even if you weren't doing
even on this
Hamilton,
Wikipedia page, I'm sure it says at the bottom.
even if you weren't
super
doing
famous
research
people.
on him, have you been? And Rube
Living
likes
under a
music.
rock, I know.
Rube likes music.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
that. I'm obsessed with the music.
You're like the fifth person I've told. It's my favorite fun fact.
I can't believe it.
For especially someone for Rube, who's known for being incredibly smart and remembering things.
And again, a big music guy. Here's what I'll
Yes.
say. I am not. Rube is very good at deadpan.
No, I'm telling you, man.
No, I'm saying I know you believe this. I am not. I still don't believe it.
Yeah.
I need to.
Well,
I need to confirm.
It's one of those
this with
things
Rube.
that is unbelievable, so you
Yeah.
don't believe it.
Yeah.
But when he first did it,
You really
I
believe
said,
it.
I was like, ah, yeah, that was
He's
a
like,
good
what are
one.
you talking about?
And he was like, no, I never, like, I brought it up to him 3 times that day. I'm like, please tell me you knew about this.
That is wild.
He
man.
has a daughter.
That's unbelievable. It's legitimately unbelievable.
if he's messing with me, this is the best trick anyone's
It
ever
would be
played on me.
hilarious. I hope
Yeah.
he is, because that'd be hilarious. We will get the update on that coming up as well. All right. This is fun, buddy.
It was a good time.
Check out Go Birds Radio this weekend. I will not be there because, as said before, I'm officiating a
Officiating.
wedding.
Yes.
Day wedding.
I like that.
Sure.
Get out of the way early, too.
Get
for
it
your-
done. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. I don't have to stress all day about it. So that'll be good. But Elliot and Rob or Rube?
I believe it's Rob.
Check them out. Call in. And we'll be back next week. Till then, Elliot James. Boom.
All right, guys. Thank you to everybody that's.
Thank you so much.
My stream stopped working as soon as I heard Elliot say naked news.
Ah!
Talking about Ruben there. I like it. All right. Talk to you guys later.
You're the best.